everyone! Welcome to another series of our bariatric cooking classes. Today we'll be making beef and quinoa stuffed green peppers. They're delicious. Just keep in mind that if you haven't been cleared for the whole grains yet, you can still make the filling with just the ground meat. I'm using lean beef today, but you could use turkey, you can use some shredded chicken, so you can make it your own. Let me show you how it's done. Okay, so I have the oven preheating at 350 degrees. So the first step is to get your peppers ready. I'm using all green peppers because these are from my garden, so I'm gonna make good use of them, but you could use red, yellow, orange, whatever color bell pepper you prefer. And so to prepare them, we have to cut off the top. And then we're going to remove the inner ribs and the seeds. So easily by putting your knife inside and just sliding and rotating the pepper, you cut through the ribs. And then it's easy to remove the center piece. We get rid of all the seeds. We don't want any of those. Those are easy to clean. Pull out any of the remainder of the inner ribs because we want all that space available for the stuffing. And that's it. So we'll do the same thing with the rest. Oh, and this piece, don't toss it because we might use it to level out the bell peppers in the pan, since not all of them tend to have a flat bottom. Now that the peppers are cut up, we're gonna lay them in a deep baking dish. It helps if the peppers are about the same size so that they cook evenly. I did my best with picking the most similar ones in size. All right, and now we're ready to fill them up. Now we're going to prepare the mixture. I have a big pan that I have heated over medium heat. I'm adding a tablespoon of olive oil. One small onion diced. And in this step, what we want to do is we want these onions to develop a lot of flavor by caramelizing. So onions have natural sugars in them, and when they're heated in oil gently, that's why we have it over medium and not medium high. If we constantly stir over time, about 10 minutes, they brown, and that just develops so much flavor in this filling. So you really don't want to skip that step if you want to have, really nice flavor in there. So we're gonna caramelize these onions, and I'm gonna continue to stir every minute or so until they're browned. Now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of ground garlic. We love garlic here in our family. Of course, this is to taste. You can do less, you can do more if you desire. And whenever you add garlic, you really want to make sure that you're tossing it frequently because you don't want the garlic to burn or brown because it tends to get bitter. We're just going to cook it until we start smelling that garlic. And now I'm going to add cilantro. These are mainly stems that I chopped up. It does have some leaves in there. We love cilantro. If you are like us, that you love cilantro and you've been just pulling out the leaves and not using the stems and throwing them away, you have been missing out. The stems chopped up, added to ground meat like this is so delicious. I'm also gonna add some fresh cilantro on top, but cooking some of the stems into the mixture just adds another level of flavor of cilantro into the dish. But if you're not a fan of cilantro, then no worries, you can just skip this step. Now I'm gonna add the beef. 1 pound. And we're gonna brown it. Now I'm going to raise the heat slightly, a little bit above medium, just to speed up the cooking process of this beef. And actually, instead of beef, you could use shredded chicken on this. If you do shredded chicken, then you just cook the chicken ahead of time and then just toss it in with all the ingredients. You don't need to cook it in the pan, just cook it ahead of time. And one neat trick is to shred the chicken really easily. If you have a KitchenAid with the paddle attachment, you can just put the chicken in there and turn on the paddle and it'll shred it for you. Now we're gonna season the beef. I have a teaspoon of salt and half a teaspoon of black pepper. Salt is to taste, of course. And you need a tablespoon of your favorite seasonings. So I have a teaspoon of cumin, a teaspoon of oregano, and a teaspoon of ground garlic. But you can use Italian seasoning, or you can use Herbs the Provence, or whatever mixture of seasonings your family loves best. This is just kind of like a blank canvas, and you can tweak it to your liking. I'm gonna toss those together. And we're definitely gonna taste this before we stuff the peppers, just to make sure that we're good on the salt. Now I'm gonna add 8 ounces, or this is a small can of tomato sauce. So 8 ounces of tomato sauce. 1 can of diced tomatoes. And when you choose the diced tomatoes or the tomato sauce, you can opt for one that has some flavoring or seasoning in it already. If you like a little kick, you can use some tomatoes with some spice in them. So that's really up to you. Let's mix these well together. Beautiful. Now that the beef is fully cooked, I'm gonna lower the heat a little bit. Now I'm gonna add a cup of cooked quinoa. This is tricolor quinoa. Usually you see rice being used. I chose to go for quinoa since it's a grain that has a little bit more protein, which is great for our patients, and it actually has a lot more fiber than just regular, white rice. I cooked that quinoa using chicken broth to give it some flavor. I would have used beef broth instead, but I didn't have it available, so I just used what I had. You could also use vegetable broth. I'm actually going to turn off the heat completely. And when I cooked the quinoa, I used a little bit less water than than you're supposed to, because I did not want the quinoa to be mushy, because it's going to keep cooking with all the juices when we put it in the oven in the peppers. And I have 3/4 cup of cheese. We're going to use about half of it for the mixture, and the other half we're going to save it for topping. Let's melt that cheese in. You want to be gentle at this point after you've added the quinoa. And you don't have to use quinoa, actually. You can use some brown rice. If you've been given the okay to have brown rice, you can use wild rice. What we want to do is try and choose a healthier grain that's higher in fiber and more nutritious than just regular white rice. All right, so here's the mixture is ready. And now we can go ahead and stuff those peppers. You see this one, how it fell over? I'm gonna use one of those pieces that we have left over to try and help balance it out a bit. Let's see if I'm able to get that to work here. Maybe a piece that's a little bit larger. All right, that'll help keep it steady. I'm trying to get the entire mixture on these peppers. And then the last step before we put it in the oven is to sprinkle with the rest of the cheese. Which, by the way, this is light mozzarella cheese. Another option is to not put half of the cheese inside the mixture. If you want, you can just put the whole 3/4 cup on top if you prefer that. It's really up to you. It's your food. You make it the way that sounds best to you. Now it's going to go in the oven for about 20 minutes or until the peppers are tender, but we don't want to cook them too much that the peppers get mushy. So somewhere around 20 minutes. It's at 350 degrees. I'll let you know how long it took these peppers to be ready. All right, and they are ready. Mine were in the oven for 30 minutes. I think that next time what I would do differently is I would cook them for 15 minutes, pull them out of the oven, sprinkle with the cheese, and then finish off on the last 15 minutes just so that they don't brown as much. But actually, my husband loves cheese when it browns like this, so I know he'll be happy. But yeah, they are beautiful and delicious. The last step for some color and flavor is to sprinkle with your herb of choice. I've been using cilantro, so that's what I'm using today. That's what I'm using now. And that is it. And that's it. Super easy. Remember that you can play around with the seasonings to make it your own based on your preferences. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.